Hey, I'm really glad that you're my girlfriend.
We're just friends.
Wh- But what about all the movie dates and the restaurant dinners I paid for?
I just thought we were really close friends.
Yeah, but I just thought we spend so much time together. I like all the same movies.
I can't.
No, wait, come back. Have you ever seen this behavior before? Have you ever wondered what a simp is? Have you ever wondered if you yourself are a simp? Well, your curiosity has been solved with our study on self-esteem and rejection sensitivity. Welcome to our symposium.
The Simp scale started from a joke in class, and we made our own Simp scales compiled with questions that we believed could sort out the characteristics of a simp. We realized that this is a real thing that real people struggle with. There's a lack of literature about the matter, so we decided to do our own research on it. From our own experience, we hypothesized that low self-esteem was a huge contributing factor for simping, which we found out had a lot of similarities with rejection sensitivity dysphoria, or RSD. Our null hypothesis is lower self-esteem does not predict higher rejection sensitivity dysphoria and simp behavior. The relationship does not differ by gender. Our alternative hypothesis was lower self-esteem does predict higher rejection sensitivity dysphoria and simp behavior. The relationship does not differ by gender.
Our method for gathering participants for our survey. We used social media. We used friends and family, video games, even more friends. We had word of mouth. And keeping our participants anonymous was a huge strength, especially for giving us a mix of genders and relationship experiences. So our method for gathering our data. We used Qualtrics to get the information from our participants. We used Excel to clean up the data from our participants. We used SPSS to interpret the data from our participants.
Rejection sensitivity questionnaire RSQ measures the tendency to anxiously expect, perceive, and overreact to social rejection. This measure evaluates the level of concern or anxiety individuals have about being rejected in social situations and their perceived likelihood of being rejected. How is rejection sensitivity calculated from the RSQ responses? The RSQ measures two parts of each scenario. One, anxiety about possible rejection. Two, expectations about being accepted or rejected. Higher scores equal higher rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and it's a continuous measure.
What does Rosenberg's self-esteem scale measure? It measures global self-esteem, overall feelings of self-worth.
It was created by Morris Rosenberg, and it was originally for high school students.
It is a 10-item questionnaire with statements about self-acceptance and self-respect.
It can be scored two ways. One is with something called the Gutman scoring, which was his original method, and then you can also score it with Likert or Likert scoring. That's the most common method, and that's what we used.
Likert scoring uses a 4-point scale and requires reverse scoring of the negatively worded items.
Most importantly, it produces a single overall self-esteem score.
This shows excellent reliability, high internal consistency, and a strong test-retest stability.
It also demonstrates strong validity, correlating with other self-esteem measures and with depression and anxiety in expected directions.
It is used widely across different age groups and research settings. How is self-esteem calculated from the Rosenberg self-esteem scale? Self-esteem came from the Rosenberg self-esteem scale, and we scored each item continuously. Higher scores equal lower self-esteem.
The Simp scale measures tendency to exhibit excessive approval, attention, or emotional investment towards someone, usually their romantic partner or person of interest. An example of one of these questions would be, I would do anything my partner asks me to. And you would do it from a scale of 1 to 6. How is simp behavior calculated from our Simp scale responses? Basically, a higher score equals higher simp behavior.
Our method for conducting our research was to have our participants complete all three scales, Rosenberg, rejection sensitivity, and as Kelly said, our new Simp scale. They completed all three scales in one Caltrex session. And then we calculated the scores using Excel. Thank you, Carter. and then we ran 6 correlations. Why did we do correlations? So correlations show what happens when 2 variables move together. So for example, the correlation between smoking cigarettes and cancer is a positive correlation. If you smoke cigarettes, you're more likely to get cancer. So we wanted to go back to our hypothesis, and we wanted to find out what the correlations were between self-esteem, rejection sensitivity, and simping, and could simping behavior be a predictor for either one of those things? And we wanted to see what the correlations, how the correlations were impacted when we filtered for just women in our study versus when we filtered for men. So just to recap, we had 6 correlations because we had 3 variables, 3 scales, and 2 genders, men and women. Here's what we discovered. I'm going to start with the end. Our most predictable result was that our hypothesis was confirmed. Lower self-esteem was linked to higher simp behavior. The most surprising result was that the simp scale also predicted rejection sensitivity, which was, even though it wasn't even designed for that, and that was a huge surprise. Now I'm going to dig into each of the correlations and go through that real fast. Correlation number 1, we looked at self-esteem and simp behavior for men only, and we found the correlation was moderate, it was statistically significant, and lower self-esteem predicted higher simp behavior in men. Next correlation was simp behavior and rejection sensitivity just for men. This turned out to be a weak correlation, and it wasn't significant. Simp scores didn't really relate to RSQ and men. Next one, last one for men, was self-esteem and RSQ. Turns out this correlation was weak, it wasn't significant. For women now, we looked at self-esteem and simp behavior. This was a surprising one. Even though it was just a moderate correlation, it was statistically significant, and that means that lower self-esteem predicted higher simp behavior for women. And the next one, simp behavior and RSQ, the correlation was moderate, but this one was also statistically significant, which means we found that higher simp scores for women were associated with higher rejection sensitivity, and this was 10% of the variance in RSQ. So while it was modest, it was very strong, noticeably stronger than the correlation with self-esteem. All right. Last one, self-esteem and RSQ for women. It was weak, it wasn't significant, was not strongly correlated. Okay, these were the 2 big findings in our study. Number 1, there was the correlation between self-esteem and simp, with lower self-esteem predicted higher simp behavior in both men and women. Negative correlation, pretty strong. This is the other surprise, is that higher simp scores predicted higher rejection sensitivity, but just for women. It was a positive correlation, and this was the big surprise from our study.
All right, in conclusion, existing research links self-esteem and rejection sensitivity dysphoria. Others explore RSD and well-being, determining self-esteem acts as a moderator. This study integrates a simp scale in order to determine how simp behavior interacts with rejection sensitivity dysphoria and self-esteem. We found that lower self-esteem predicted more simp behavior for everyone. Higher simp behavior predicted more rejection sensitivity for women only. Our strengths and limitations. So our limitations were long and confusing questions which affected participant retention. People may answer in socially desirable ways. For strengths, multiple methods of sharing the survey. We used already established scales, anonymous participants, and then we created a study-specific scale. So our implication for broader research, findings suggest simp behavior may reflect social strategies tied to self-worth and fears of rejection, operating differently across genders. It highlights an emerging behavioral pattern shaped by modern social dynamics, and then future research should further validate the simp scale, exploring cultural or gender differences, and examine whether improving self-esteem can reduce rejection behaviors.
And until next time, remember, simping ain't pimping. Keep your crowns and tiaras up, people.